To gaze into one of the magnificent carriage lamps of the Heinz Company delivery wagon is to peer back into history, a time when our economy depended on pure horsepower to carry food and supplies to the people. The vital role these horses played in the development of our great country is represented today by the Heinz Hitch, an awesome display of power, elegance, but more importantly, they represent a living history lesson, giving people a glimpse back into time, over a century ago, reinforcing the traditions that America was built on, helping people understand the role the horses and wagons had on the development and growth of our great country. Today, that era of our history and heritage is represented and perpetuated by the Heinz Hitch, a team of 8 stunning black Percheron horses hitched to a painstakingly restored classic delivery wagon, similar to the ones used by the Heinz Company at the turn of the century. Welcome to the Heinz Hitch at Dreyer Farms. In the peaceful rolling hills of southwest Pennsylvania, John and Joanne Dreyer and their dedicated crew play a crucial role in maintaining and perpetuating a living history lesson on behalf of the H.J. Heinz Company. The farm is home to the famous Heinz Hitch, which carries the story of the early development of our nation to millions of people throughout North America. These ambassadors serve to both educate and thrill the public, and have appeared at many venues throughout the U.S. and Canada, portraying and demonstrating the vital role they played in the growth of our economy.
Hi, I'm John Dreyer. I'm the general manager of the Heinz Hitch, and the Heinz Hitch is composed of 8 black Percheron horses, which represent the same breed that the Heinz Company, and that's Heinz as in ketchup, started with 135 years ago. And what we do is we drive all over North America, making friends for Heinz and bringing them something out of the past. We like to think of ourselves as a living history lesson, because that's what we are. This is the way all products used to be delivered 100 years ago, and we think we've done a pretty good recreation on bringing that back to the American public today. Percheron horses are, and of course we're a little bit prejudiced on this, but because we've got Percheron horses, but Percheron horses, in my opinion, are the Cadillac of the draft horse breed. They are the only breed of heavy horse that was not bred as a draft horse. They were bred as war horses. They were bred originally to carry the knights, and Percheron horses get their name from the province of Perche, where they were originally bred. And what they are a cross between what were known as the old Flemish plough mares, which is also the precursor of the Belgian horse. And the Belgian horse went a different direction. They were bred with other big horses. The Percheron horse utilized Arabian stallions bred to the Flemish plough mares to produce the modern, or the first Percheron horses. Now, the first Percheron horses did not look like the horses in the Heinz Hitch, but the bloodlines are still there. 1,000 years of Arabian breeding still shows in the Percheron, with the very fine head, the big eye, the very sharply defined ear, and the dished face. Whereas with other draft horse breeds, Roman noses are a very common attribute of Clydes and many times of Belgians, but you'll rarely see that in a Percheron. Henry Heinz used Percheron horses because, quite frankly, they delivered products 6 days a week. The city of Pittsburgh is a long way from being flat. It's either going up or going down when you're in the city of Pittsburgh, unless you're right down at the point. And these horses were able to haul these wagons, and these wagons were not, you have to remember that in the early days, packaging as we know it and take it for granted today didn't even exist. Many items were shipped in barrels. Vinegar was shipped, pickles were shipped in barrels. And these barrels would weigh between 400 and 500 pounds apiece, and they'd load these wagons with barrels. So these horses were hauling 3 and 4 ton up and down the city streets of Pittsburgh. But the stables at the Heinz facility were described by one author at the time as equine palaces, because it was a 4-story building. Wagons were stored on the first floor. horses were on the second and third floor. They rode up and down in elevators, and they had a roof garden where they could take a horse that was given a day off or needed to convalesce for some reason, take him up there and turn him out on a 4-story garden, 4 stories off the street. They had foot bath up there that they could stand in that was kept their feet supple and able to hold a shoe. And what isn't widely known is the fact that H.J. Heinz, the founder, was actually quite a horseman. He showed horses, and there are some great old-time photography pictures of Henry Heinz on his riding horse, which was really quite an elegant horse for the day.
The trucks that carry the horses, wagon, harnesses, and other equipment are also a history lesson. The Percheron's van portrays some of the early scenes of horse-drawn delivery vehicles at the turn of the century. The harness truck carries all of the logos used by the Heinz Company from its beginning in the late 1800s to present day.
This all got started almost as a Saturday morning hobby. In fact, it was a Saturday morning hobby. I'd bought these 2 old Percheron Amish horses. They were 13 and 14 years old. They'd only ever worked with each other. And I convinced the general manager of public relations at Heinz that if we invested in a small, what was known as a huckster wagon, just for 2 horses, that I could do parades in the Pittsburgh area for them a lot cheaper than they can build a float or do something else. And that's how the hitch started. It started in, our first event was the Labor Day parade in Pittsburgh in 1984. Our first wagon, of course, was just a small Amish huckster wagon. But when we graduated to full-size hitch wagon, we found a wagon in central Pennsylvania that had been stored in a old wagon shed for over 50 years. The first gentleman, we were the second people to know about the wagon. The first man to know about it took it out in 1978 and had it refurbished. But the interesting story about that, before they could take the wagon out of the shed, they had to cut a tree down that had grown up through the bed of the wagon before they could get the wagon out. It took about a year to refurbish the wagon, and we were fortunate enough to secure the wagon in 1986. Now, the interesting part about that wagon, it was used in Philadelphia. Among other things, it hauled many Heinz products around the city of Philadelphia. And so the link is very direct to the Heinz Company with the wagon that we currently see now. It has been, the first refurbishment was 1978. When Heinz Company bought it, they put all the wonderful painting and logos that are on there, and I might add, those are all hand painted by one man. There's no stenciling, there's no decals, they're hand painted. He starts with a palette of paint, and for instance, the ketchup bottle is red on red. The wagon is red, the ketchup is red. The ketchup bottle on the end gate looks like you could reach in there and pick it off. It's 3-dimensional. And we had the wagon again refurbished in 1998 up near Mount Hope, Ohio, and it's one of the finest pieces of equine equipment in the world today. The wagon is quite large in size. It weighs 6,800 pounds. It's 8'6" to the seat. The wheels are 5 foot high, and we actually had a chance to weigh one of the wheels. They're 325 pounds apiece. The wagon was manufactured by the Studebaker Corporation, and it is the same company that used to build Studebaker cars, of course. We always felt they built better wagons than they did cars because there's more Studebaker wagons around than there are Studebaker cars. The wagon was either manufactured in South Bend, Indiana, or Lafayette, Indiana. They had wagon building facilities in both places. No one knows how it made its way to Philadelphia, and probably by rail. But the real mystery is that how it got from Philadelphia up to central Pennsylvania. That one nobody knows.
Prior to the presentation, the horses are meticulously groomed and bathed. Fabric ribbons in the Heinz Company colors are carefully woven into the horses' manes. Forelocks and tails are braided to create an elegant and flashy appearance. Once the horses are groomed, they are loaded onto their specially equipped van for their next adventure. The horses enjoy having a job and enjoy all the attention they receive in preparation for their next presentation. Once on site, the horses receive their final touches: mane flowers, hoof black, tail ribbons, and their exquisitely handcrafted and custom-fitted show harnesses.
When you go to a lot of horse shows, it's quite often a family deal, and you see 10, 12 people working to get things done. We prefer, you can do this with 10 or 12 people that all know a little bit. We prefer to take 4 or 5 people that know a whole lot and get it done very quickly, very efficiently. We quite often get asked how long does it take to hook an 8-horse hitch. We give ourselves about 35, 40 minutes to hook them. Our record is 13 minutes to hook an 8-horse hitch. Now, a lot of people don't believe that, but as God is my judge, we did it in 13 minutes. And we did that at the Michigan State Fair, because even the fair director was standing there. He says, "You guys just took these 8 horses in 13 minutes." But, you know, that's not what we try to do. Nobody was trying to do that. We had no gun at our head. That's just how fast that happened to happen. And we had some horses that stood very well. These horses learn what the routine is. They're creatures of habit, and once they get into the habit, they remember it forever. In that respect, they're somewhat like an elephant. You can take any of these older horses that we have in the hitch and not drive them for 3 months, and you take them out, hook them up, and it's like they never had a day off.
My name is Rabo Ninehouse. I'm the manager of the Heinz Percheron Hitch. I've worked with the hitch for 8 years, and I've been the manager for 4. The Dalmatian that travels with us, HJ, he's the mascot of the hitch and also companion to the horses. Since the first day we brought him home, he was actually a rescue Dalmatian that my wife had found. We got him when he was a year old. And he got to the barn and settled right in, and the second day he was there, we started to work some horses, and he jumped up on the wagon, and now he will actually have a complete fit if he is not on a wagon and you leave without him. He stays with the horses all the time. When the horses are in the tent, in their tie stalls, he sleeps in the straw line behind them, and usually lets the night guy know if anybody does come in the tent. He's not overly ferocious, but he does tend to be a little bit of a noisemaker, which is a good thing for us. Gives us peace of mind when we're sleeping. The Heinz company uses the hitch as basically a living history lesson, and we find in our travels that it is such a visual medium that really it sticks in their mind. They really associate with horses. Horses have been the backbone that our country has been built on, that to see 8 of these giants coming through down the street at you is something that you will remember for days, even months, and to have that association with the Heinz name is very good for the company as an advertising tool. The horses that we use in the Heinz Hitch, the Percheron horse, is a fantastic animal to work with. At the same time, they're very athletic, they have lots of power, they're very flashy, but at the same time, their mind is very easy to train, very easy to work with. We have young horses that come in the hitch as 3-year-olds that don't know anything. They've just basically come off the farm, and it seems like a couple of weeks of working around the barn and going out on the roads. They get used to the traffic, they get used to everything, and they adjust very quickly by horse standards to new things that are going on. Bands, things like that. As long as they're broke right and trained right, they seem to adjust to these things a lot better. And with the Heinz Hitch being in such populated venues like state fairs where we get into parades where there's a lot of people around, you need to have that good mind in a horse to, of course, avoid accidents or anything like that. But as a driver, to be able to work with 8 horses that are always right kind of at your fingertips, basically. You know, they listen so well and they're always ready to go. They never really have bad days. So it's just a real rewarding job to be able to work with these horses. The Heinz Hitch is the only hitch that the Heinz company sponsors. We travel a lot more miles that way to get around the country for everybody to see us. We're very personable to approach. People can come up and ask us any questions with the horses or pet the horses. When we have the time to do it, we really try and go out of our way to let people get the real hands-on impression of what the Heinz Hitch is, pet the horses. You know, of course, if the hitch is put together, we try and keep people out from underneath them, of course, and safety is always an issue for us. But we find that the elderly generation really responds to the horse, and I think it's a lot of that was when they were young boys, their fathers worked the land with horses, they made their living with horses. We find a very emotional reaction from them. They really, really appreciate it. And of course, the younger generation are basically stunned by the size. They really tend to react to the size of the horses and just basically the whole overwhelming vision of 16,000 pounds of horsepower.
There are probably fewer than 100 people today who are capable of driving an 8-horse hitch. Driving a hitch this size is an acquired skill and requires 2 drivers ready to take the reins at a moment's notice. It requires an understanding of each horse's personality and an ability to anticipate what each horse will do in a given situation. The ground crew also have the ability to read each horse and anticipate a given situation before it happens. Maneuvering the horses is an acquired skill of both rein control and voice commands to the horses.
We get asked quite often, how in the world do you drive all those horses? And the most popular misconception is that the 6 behind the leaders follow them. They don't necessarily follow one another. But in any event, they will pull on your hands with about 85 pounds of pull when you're going down the street. The lines for an 8-horse hitch, just the lines themselves weigh 85 pounds. With an 8-horse hitch going down the street in the city, the most important people in your life when you're going down that street are your ground people. Because if something goes wrong, those are the people that stop it from happening. So that's why you have to, all those people are highly skilled in what's happening. Most of them are able to drive an 8-horse hitch to some degree. They might not be able to do a demo or something, but if something happened, they get up in the seat and get them back to the truck. We quite often get asked how far the hitch travels. Actually, we're one of the furthest, if not the furthest traveled hitch in the world. We go about 57,000 miles a year. Obviously, the number is, don't hit it right on the head every time, but we come close. We go from our home in western Pennsylvania clear to Calgary, Canada. We go to Pasadena, California. We've been in the Rose Parade 5 times. We've done the Texas State Fair, the Florida State Fair. We've been in Portland, Maine, Columbus, Ohio, Oklahoma City, you name it, Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been all over North America.
People that ride the hitch, we've had several different celebrities on the wagon. Usually it's only HJ, and if they don't mind the dog, then they of course get to ride up there as well. We've had Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, who was a very, very nice lady, has had some horse experience herself with horses in England. She was a little put back by the size of the horses too, but at the Tournament of Roses parade, she helped me decorate one of the horses' manes with roses. So she wasn't afraid to get in there and get her hands dirty, so to speak. But we've had a lot of different people ride the hitch, and they all really say that it's an experience that they'll never forget.
The Heinz Hitch, of course, does travel all over the United States. We do fairs in virtually every state of the Union at some point in time. And we would like to invite people to come and see us if we're in the area. And if you're interested in getting into driving Percherons, or for that matter, any breed of draft horse, visit our website. Come see us at any one of the fairs, and we'd be glad to help you, just like we were helped many, many years ago.
The Heinz Hitch and the dedicated group of individuals who carry on this tradition invite everyone to visit their website for their schedule of appearances and presentations. Experience a living history lesson. Understand the past. Come see a glimpse of our country's heritage.